Welcome to Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, number 123. I'm your host, Greg Gaub. Gang's all here. Left, John, Wayne, Don, J-Rod, Dennis, Dewan, Mike, Phil, Jeremy, Garth, Bill, Big Den, Alan, Neil, and other people. And we're going to talk slot cars. As always, let's start with show and tell. If you have anything at all slot car related to show and or tell about, now is the time to raise your virtual hand so you can show off a little bit and get some adoration from the fans. If not, then we'll move straight to Club Corner. Mike's got his hand up. Dennis got it. Oh, here we go. There's the hands. Wonderful. All right, so Mike had his hand up first. Hope you're ready. Go
straight out of the box.
Straight out of the box. Let me spotlight you here. There you go. Is that the slotted?
That is a slotted R8 LMP. 2001 Le Mans.
Isn't that fairly new?
Yeah, it's a new
just
release.
came out.
Thought so, yeah.
Yeah, it's a new release.
Have you taken it
Yeah,
off?
I stopped.
Haven't even taken it
Alan's
off.
on the way back.
Haven't put it on the track yet, have you?
No. No, I was going to put the chip in as we speak.
Yeah.
So I do have one other thing. Let me go grab it quick. The stablemate for the
For the Alpha.
Alpha.
There you go. Yeah.
Is it out already?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I got it Monday,
Man, too bad
and I
that
raced
purple
it already.
Too bad that purple stripe isn't blue. I'd be all over that.
Yeah, I bet.
What year is that
Yeah,
Alpha?
they're really, really nice cars. I like them a lot.
Oh, yeah.
What year is it? supposed to be?
Really, really, really hard to chew the front wheels, though. They get really ragged.
Yeah.
So,
You should put them in the freezer for overnight before you try.
oh, well, I didn't do that, but I'll do that next time.
Hey, what year is that supposed to be?
It's a Mark I Escort. So,
Like
I don't know.
68, 69?
yeah,
Earlier than that even.
something like that. But yeah, they're pretty equal in speed, and they really, really go well. I like them.
Cool.
Yeah, Revo slots are great pretty much straight out of the box. I don't even bother.
Yeah, yeah.
chewing.
That's
All
one of the
right.
joys of racing them is you don't have to do much tuning in order to get them quick and handling decent, and you can just leave them then and just pull them out of the box and race them whenever the class comes up. So
My dog's
that's
playing
it for, well, I have more, but that's okay. It's not out of the box yet.
All right, well, feel free to take it out and we'll swing back around to you. So thanks for sharing
Okay.
those, Mike. It's always fun to see new cars. And Dennis, you are next, sir.
Okay, just changing over cameras. I don't know if I showed this last time out. I don't think so. The last time I was showing that Audi from Scale Auto. This one is a Revell Corvette C7 plastic kit body that I just put onto a chassis that was designed and made in Oregon by a fellow by the name of Zach Morgan. Some of you may know that name. He's a slot car racer and a radio control racer and a full-size racer and so on out of the Portland area. Did quite a lot of racing at one point and has been, he got involved with this, a lot of hard body racing that the guys in Oregon are doing, where they put I think a 16D or something, a Palmer 16D in the back of these bolt together chassis. And they were always worried, they were always struggling to get parts for the Playford chassis, and they didn't like the 3mm axles. So he designed and made this chassis that takes regular bearings for 332 axles, which I, of course, immediately drilled out to take 3mm axles because I wanted the big wheels. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. Actually runs really well. I put a Pro Slot 4002 FX in this one.
I probably missed it, but who made the body?
Revell.
Okay.
It's a plastic kit from a couple of years back that I've had lying around. that has been on my to-do list for ages, and so I did it.
Nice looking car.
And it runs really nice too. The ProSlot 4002 FK motors have poly neo magnets in them, so they have a lot of bottom end torque and a lot of brakes, which you need on a thing like this because it weighs like 220 grams.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy heavy. You know, all of that brass is all like 50 thousandths thick. So you know, there's a lot of heft in there. But it came out well. So that's mine for today. A little later on, seeing as Phil's on the call, I'm going to go and fetch something that I want to show that he'll like to see.
All right, we'll swing back around to that. And Mike, did you pull out your thing already, or did you want to hang on until we're done with other show and tells?
Give me a couple minutes yet.
Okay, Bill, you are next, sir.
All righty. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, good to go.
Good deal. All right. This is, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I bring slot car stuff that isn't exactly slot car, you know, like with the layout and all of that.
No, tangential is fine.
All right. Well, you know, well, let me show you. So one of my main challenges with this table, it's an 8x12 table, is that, you know, I have cameras embedded in different spots and I really want to get the action, but I don't want to see the people around it. And I don't want to see my dirty garage or any of that. And so I've fought with a couple of different backdrop ideas, and I was messing around with OBS, which is like an online streaming, like video streaming software. And I realized I could do some masking. So I'll share that. Let me know if you guys can see
Yep, coming in.
that screen.
Yeah, that looks great, Bill.
So if you look in the background, I don't know if you can see the mouse or the cursor, but essentially, so I've got my start finish. And then see how that looks? I just think that looks better than if I was to put a paper background. Now I'd like that for my own, you know, edification. But
So did you need to green screen it, or did you just
CGI.
so
Yeah.
what this is literally I got the camera, the camera, and I am outputting in the same resolution that the camera is streaming it out as. So I go directly into the camera. I just take a shot of it. And then I literally just turn this into a transparent graphic,
okay?
dropped it right over top and slid it into place around this.
Okay.
And, you know, as long as you can kind of get around Photoshop all right, this is not exactly difficult stuff, but
Yeah.
you can see it looks a hell of a lot better than my garage door.
Yeah.
And then,
Oh, yeah.
So it's just
one
so
there.
in the OBD, it's just a matter of or OBS or whatever. It's just a matter of putting in your photoshopped screen capture of that camera perspective and lining it up properly if it's not already lined up properly, and then it basically will just put that picture everywhere you want it to be, and the video the rest of the place.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and so each one of these views, I've created a separate, you know, screenshot of, or a separate mask, of course.
Yeah.
And so these are associated. So I basically lock the camera view to this graphic, so they hold together. And then from there, you know, I'm for continuity, I'm using a lot of the same photo. I'm using a long panorama from the Flathead Valley up in Montana, where I grew up part of my life. And so, yeah, basically, you know, you really can go in, and I could create like 15 different, you know, backdrops off this. Once you have it down, you have it down. Then it's just a question of drop, you know.
Can you turn that off so we can see what it looks like?
Yeah,
behind without it on.
Let's see. So here's, oh, hold on. Here's without the mask.
Oh.
Hey guys.
Cool.
And
So that's live. That's awesome. So even
Yeah.
now that you've done the job of tracing, you know, where you want to mask, it's that much easier. You can use that same trace for any mask, right? You can just
exactly
copy a new picture and boom, you have a new. You don't have to retrace it every time. You've got a new mask anytime you want. That's awesome.
exactly. So
great
now
idea.
here's the thing. Oh, what's up?
I was just saying that's a great idea.
And do a backdrop of Le Mans.
Yeah, I mean, that's
can
the thing.
travel
You
the
can
world.
do any of this, and
Yeah.
I'll probably put together a video kind of just with a quick how-to on it at some point. I've got a fair amount of things on my plate, but I'm getting there. But I really like how this worked out. The only thing is, I can't let any of you guys into my house now because all it takes is one shove of that table to create about an hour and a half's worth of work. Maybe I could probably. I mean, because
Well, here's
so
the-
this screen here with the Tasty Freeze or whatever, I moved that camera maybe a quarter of an inch, and it took me about 10 minutes to get that baby back in.
yeah.
So there are some downsides, but as long as you're not moving the table regularly, you know, I think we're in pretty good shape. But
What I want to see is
this
one
is
of
the
those.
only one I
pictures-
haven't figured out.
Oh, that's a perfect
What's
one. So this kind of image
Mhm.
with a big mask,
Mhm.
somebody crashes and you reach in to pick up the car, you're gonna have a ghost hand appearing in the middle of the.
Uh-huh.
Call it the hand of God for a
But
reason.
that's the thing is you can literally sit there and marshal and, you know, have people around there and you're not. Now, I don't know how many people really like watching other people, you know, race their slot cars, but I do. And so, you know, whenever you're seeing somebody put their hand in, it's you lose that suspension of disbelief. Is that the term?
Yeah.
You know, it reintroduces reality to you. So anything we can do to make these things look more real, that's kind of, as long as it's, you know, reasonable. And there's, you know, there's another one there that I've got. And so, yeah, you know, it was just one little thing that I worked on there. While I'm at it, let me do it. Just a quick thing here. You could see on here, I've added, some molds and there's now some, you know, we have some real contours on it. Can't really move it. I don't think I can really zoom that in without really creating a lot of work for myself later. But in terms of this was the big challenge. I've spent a lot of time on this stupid modeling, rock mold BS. I'm never doing, so here's a tip. If you're doing molding, I know it makes sense. You say, oh yeah, I'll go out and buy 4 or 5 of these Woodland Scenics silicone molds and I can just redo these rocks everywhere. It's really true. But then you have to affix every stupid one of them. And so the first time I tried to affix them, I didn't do a very good job. And so there was more like joint compound and sealant over top of it. And then I had to go back and wipe it down and try to get some, you know, some lines back on it. I spent too much time on it. Next time, I'm just going to get a big old, you know, some of the larger molds. I'm done with this type of stuff unless it's for small detail. So that's about it for me.
Does anyone else think it kind of changes the scale and upscales the slot car track to some extent? It's quite impressive, the result. I'd like to see the cars going around.
Yeah, and when you get to
Yeah.
on those mountains and then on the infield and stuff, it'll just, yeah, that'll look awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty much the next thing. Here, Wayne.
You're going to put a car on the track for us now. Here it is.
There it is.
Oh, it's got a dead spot over there.
Oh, no,
Oh.
push it. Make it go. Make it go.
It's got lights, I think.
Yeah, it did.
Okay, now you guys can see the arms coming in, okay?
Just a shadow so far. Yeah, there's your hand.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, yeah. Once you get some color on that landscaping, that'll be epic.
Oh, and it's moved camera. And of course, they can time lapse that to make that do that at interims.
Nice.
He's doing it.
Very, very cool, Bill.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And of course,
As you
that
could-
makes out of space.
Yeah, you know, it's a fun. That's
Well,
the
now,
thing is I don't have all of these skills that a lot of you guys I think have built up and I'm working on them. But there's some things just with my old career in IT and everything where it's like, oh, well, maybe I can do this. The masking stuff is related to an old arcade cabinet user interface project I worked on. That's kind of where it came from. And, you know, but yeah, hopefully somebody can learn from this and I'll hopefully pretty shortly here get a video together on how to do it. It's not hard. Anybody can do this with basically just a photo editing program.
Are you using USB cameras at these locations or what are they?
These are all PoE cameras.
Okay.
I initially was using a security software program called Blue Iris. But there are no nice transitions with that. You have to, and you can't be in this application at the same time. Oh, let me unshare this. One sec. I
didn't know OBS took in PoE cameras
Yeah.
into your
They're
computer then?
basically
What's
Yeah,
PoE?
yeah, you can-
What's PoE?
Power over Ethernet.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's basically just one network cable that goes out to it. So I've got some couple of switches under the under the layout that just that's
And
how
then
they
it-
all get powered.
Then OBS takes it in as a IP address and streams it through the Ethernet.
Yeah, this is,
Okay.
let me tell you, let's see, there's northeast corner. So this is just using RTSP. There's nothing fancy about this. And so it really is just, it's just a little effect. It's not hard to do. The program's there, but I've looked around and I don't see anyone doing it. And there's no reason that we shouldn't all be doing stuff like this if we like it.
Yeah,
And I
I
don't
look
need
forward to your tutorial
Yeah.
on it. Make sure you list what your cameras you're using and stuff. So because the camera looks great from what I'm looking at.
they're not
quality's
even that
good, right?
expensive.
Even better.
The main thing is I have to write firewall rules. You know what that means.
Yeah, I know.
So-
actually.
That's the issue with having power over Ethernet cameras is you pick up the accompanying security questions around that. So there are some downsides to it, but again, if you could get away with that by using USB cameras just as easily. So there are ways to sidestep all those issues.
I was gonna say that, and that's why not everybody is doing that.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I'm
But
familiar
it's-
with firewall manipulation, and even I would not want to dig in to do that. It's just
Oh, I hate it. Right on my desk right here, I got another switch and I got out of IT a couple of years ago. I'm like, what's this doing here? But I can't seem to escape all of it. So
But I'm
it
just
is
wondering,
what-
like the quality, because like I have USB cameras too. Like this is probably the best
Yeah.
USB camera I have. But
Yeah.
your quality on your track was just way better than what my USB camera's putting out.
that looked pretty
Uh,
good.
But if
yeah,
not, it's
yeah, these are they're from Amazon. They're Amcrest. I think they're 8 megapixel cameras if I recall, but I'll get them up. I'll get it all put together for you.
let's make
Yeah,
Wayne
I get
find them
yours.
on AliExpress. Let's get some cheap ones.
If you want to run electronics from AliExpress, good luck with
and,
that.
and we'll do a
Yeah.
group buy.
Yeah. No,
12
I mean,
cents a piece.
motors are one thing, but electronics, I get afraid of Alibaba for some things. But yeah, if anybody has a question on this, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. Certainly, most of you guys, I think, have
Oh.
found me out there.
Hey, segue time. So last week after the recording, we basically said if you want to share your contact information with other Zoomers for this particular, other Worldwide Stock Car Chatters, there is I started a spreadsheet, a Google Sheet. So I'll put that link in the chat. I'm not going to put it on the YouTube video, obviously, but
Okay.
this will be for you guys. Whatever contact information you want to share, whether it's email or Facebook link or website link or whatever, you'll be able to just go up there. When I post a link into the chat, you can just click it, and that'll give you editing powers to go. So make sure you don't screw up somebody else's thing, but edit your own, add whatever information you want want other people with this link to be able to see. So I'll do that momentarily.
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome stuff, Bill. Anything else?
That'll do it.
Any more questions for Bill? Hearing none,
Very, very cool.
that is super cool. Yeah,
guys.
absolutely. And we're looking forward to your, whatever you post on helpful information for that, for replicating that. Next up is Wayne. Go ahead, Mr. Lander.
Well, last time I used my tire truer, the motor was letting out the smoke, but it didn't stop running. So this week I attempted to repair a motor. And I've got the mobile phone in the chat. Can anyone who uses a tablet remind me how to share the screen?
You might have to tap more and then share screen. Or you
Yeah.
tap the screen first to get the buttons to pop up and then.
That's what I needed. Okay, so share my screen. Yeah, that looks like it's working.
Yep, we see everything you see.
So this is a armature from a 540 sealed can motor.
You
type-
took apart a sealed can. Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
The type that you typically find on your tire thrower, and there's nothing there to give you scale except the wires, perhaps. But that's the size of that's the can that I had to find
Okay,
a way.
the motor that powers the Truer was letting out smoke.
That's the one.
Holy moly!
It was under nearly no load, but I could see light flashes and sparks and all sorts of things inside through the holes in the can that are currently down there and on the table. But I opened it up. It was just a case of tapping a few tabs, bent over metallic tabs out the way to get this end bell piece off. And I was having a look around inside to see if I could find anything wrong. You can see some damage on the motor can there where I've tapped the tab out of the way with a flat blade screwdriver and an impact device, a linear persuader. And so I was looking in the motor brushes here and I couldn't see any issues with spring tension or anything like that. And so I reassembled and test ran it. This is a 6-second video, but the interesting aspect of this is to listen to the noises that the motor was making because I've placed it on a wooden tabletop.
Sharing video, there's usually an option to share the audio from the video. So
Oh, you didn't get the audio.
no, we're not hearing it.
Okay, so if I do that now then.
It'll probably be, you'll probably have to exit the share and then, yeah, I don't know. That's
Okay, so go back there, stop the share. And then is it?
so if you share the video app, when you hit share, and then
The video app was just I was obviously using just screen share there.
yeah.
What
so-
is a white? Anyone know what a whiteboard is?
No, yeah, it's a whole separate thing that lets you scribble on the screen.
So
So
if
you
I
can-
change,
You want to look for something to share audio to. It's going to be a checkbox somewhere. Or you could upload it to YouTube while we're talking and we can play it from YouTube later. Or you could mimic the noise. Go ahead, Wayne, mimic the noise that it was making.
yeah, you're just setting me up for that one. So
Dang it.
we'll ignore the video audio element for now. Then I might do that, but let's just finish with the continue as it was photos. So I ran it on a low voltage there. It's on that adjustable power supply running at 3.8 volts, very low RPM, but it was making a real racket. And I had noticed this whilst it was in the tire truer. It vibrated quite a bit. So while it was apart, I thought, let's have a look at the armature, closer look at the armature. And as you can see, it's had some balancing work done to it in the manufacturing process. And what I've done here is to check its balance, I've blobbed a couple of pieces of blue tack on the table and I've got some spare modeling knife blades, set those in the blue tack and just got them level and allowed the armature to sit there on the blades and the heaviest part will go low. So that showed me that I needed to apply some more weight just about there. And so that is another little piece of blue tack that I pushed in with the screwdriver tip. And then I decided to take it to the commutator lathe because this armature's never seen a commutator lathe. So at the moment it's covered in black marker pen, although my marker pen was a bit old, so it didn't cover it very thoroughly. But there it is, finally using the lathe for what it was intended for, instead of turning slot car wheels into different dimensions of slot car wheels, which is what it often does. And the first cut, you can see that there are parts of that commutator that have never been touched by the motor brush, only the bits that are still black. And then as I went for the final cut, I discovered that you can't see it in the photograph because it's on the other side, but although I've cut the whole surface across what you can see that's closest to you, the other side of the other side of the commutator hasn't even cut. So I can confirm that the stock armature isn't even round. So the
Stock commutator wasn't round.
It wasn't even round. That's what I meant to say.
The armature was unbalanced and the com wasn't round.
That's correct.
And the slots were full of gunk and the surface was bad. Yeah.
Yeah, the slots were full of gunk. So I do drag the knife blade down the slots there to clean out any gunk. And I did that before I put the commutator, before I put the armature triller to it.
So sorry to interrupt, but how thick is a com on these things that you're able to lay them down and not go through it?
Oh, plenty thick enough because you're probably only taking a couple of thousandths off the top.
You can actually do this many times to one of these armatures. These armatures are common to me in RC car racing past history.
So
But I've never taken one out of one of these motors, because when you do use these motors in RC cars, they're normally a control motor and a handout motor. So you're not meant to open them. They're sealed and tamper-proof. So this is a thing that I've done for the first time, despite having used these motors many times. And then I ran it up with the piece of blue tacks just pushed into the windings to see whether or not it would throw out, and it didn't. And my Jiri app, which is a good app for listening to motors that are running, suggested that it was doing nearly 35,000 revs at 12.2 volts. And these are after videos, and this video is much quieter. And here it is back inside the tire trailer where it came from.
So good as
Ed,
new.
Cool.
and
Good
apparently
job.
working properly.
Good
Nice.
job.
You
What often
saved
happens
yourself
is if-
buying another $4 motor from AliExpress.
Well, the
Well,
problem is, yeah,
interestingly, I did have a look at that option, and they're not $4. Nothing like it. We were looking at £6-7 for the item, but then I would have to add the import tax to that and the shipping cost. So I was looking at £10 plus, which is probably $13, $14. And
yeah,
I was
I've
like,
just replaced the motors on 2 of my hoodie machines, and they were like $13 a piece off of Amazon.
And how much
you go.
time did you spend on that?
Oh, that was after I did exactly what Wayne had done and took the whole thing apart and cleaned it up, and it still didn't work. So then I thought, well, screw this, I better just buy a new one.
Wayne, how much time did you spend?
It's
I
not the
spent
time,
very
it's the
little on that
principle of it.
Of the principle. I'm
It's the
currently
principle.
putting together a 3D printer for a friend.
Ah.
I'm realizing, yeah, the extra $200 for a fully assembled printer is not a bad deal when you consider how much time actually goes into putting the thing together.
well, for me, the biggest deciding factor was it's going to cost a little bit more than I thought it was, but I was going to have to wait 6 weeks.
Oh yeah.
And I have a race coming up in October, and I want to be able to use the thing. So I because I know what I was doing going in or inside one, I thought, if it's already dickered, how much worse can it get?
Can't
Wayne,
be-
do you not have any old brushed electric RC motors, 540 RC motors lying around?
I got rid of a lot of that stuff, and the answer is my brother has probably got most of that now. So I couldn't get my hand on one very easily. Let's put it that way.
Those are way better motors, rebuildable, and the brushed motors have way more torque than those silly $4 things that you're putting in there.
I know that. But the thing about them is that I find I normally run my tire trailer in the 4 to 6 volts range. And there's just no purpose in it revving much higher than that, in my experience. And all of those motors that are performance motors, I've got lower winding on the armature, so they rev higher, and they're not the right kind of motor for a tire truer. Now, you've seen my commutator lathe. My commutator lathe has got exactly that on it. It's got an X competition type open brush gear, brush springs adjustable, fully disassemblable motor, which also I run on 4 volts, but that just gives me about the right RPM for the armature, because the pulley on the motor is much smaller than the diameter of the armature. So there's a massive reduction in the ratio between the pulley and the armature. However, on the commutator lathe, the size, on the tire truer, the size of the pulley on the axle that you're applying into, mounting up into the carriage, is not that much bigger than the pulley on the motor. So you get it's not 1-to-1, it's something closer to 1-to-1. So you actually need a very low revving motor for the tire truer. And if I'm given the option, I would like to install a 35 turn motor. I've no doubt that motor was probably a 27 turn motor, and I reckon a 35 turn motor, which is a thing that I've never had to use, would be probably be optimal.
I've repaired quite a few for folks, and I just use like a box stock RC brush motor, and now if you go into any shops that have them, they're basically trying to give them away. So
yeah, because the RC racing fraternity have all moved on to brushless motors and brushless controls.
Precisely.
So anything that's like that, that's still in a model shop anywhere, is normally old stock, as you rightly point out, and therefore probably quite accessible for not much money.
Yeah,
but lower RPM is good. I remember I had one of the earliest tire razors from John, and those had much higher RPM motors than is suitable. So you could only run them at a few volts, because otherwise the tires would balloon off the wheels.
Yeah.
So then he sent me a lower RPM motor, and he started producing them with lower RPM motors. And now Ed has switched to a geared motor for 1,000 RPM, just to have higher torque and lower RPMs to keep it from getting warm. So yeah.
Wayne, is that an RSM4 or whatever that is from Germany?
It is an RSM. It's an RSM 3.1.
Have you been happy with it other than the motor issues?
We have actually mentioned this in the chat once before. The answer is it could be better, Brian. The truth of the matter is that if I put the whole axle on the truer and true both tires simultaneously, I end up with a vernier caliper difference between the two tires of approximately 0.3 millimeters. Now, it's not a lot, but I don't like it. Yeah. And so most of the time, if I'm using alloy wheels, which have got a grub screw, I'm using it on one side. I'm fitting an axle in the provided bushes in the normal way, but I'm just leaving the thing in the carriage and taking one wheel off. I can also correct that problem by putting the plate with the abrasive on. I can put that on top of a small shim. I actually use sellotape. I put a piece of tape in the slide area and put the carriage there in an attempt to get the carriage and the abrasive plate to be completely parallel. And then I just put my abrasive in between that, in between the tire and the carriage. I leave the carriage alone and I just move the abrasive paper around.
Didn't they
why not just flip your axle around?
Yeah,
it doesn't. I've got a stiff enough pieces. I've got a few stiff enough pieces of abrasive that it works just like as if the abrasive was on the carriage.
Why not just flip your axle around, Wayne?
That's what he does, right?
That is another option. True one side, turn it over, true the other side. If I'm working with a Scalextric axle, for example, that has crown gear in the center, I won't even put the pulley on. I'll run the belt, which is just an O-ring, in the groove of the crown gear. And that gives me a very low rotating, no, it doesn't, gives me a higher speed. Anyway, that's what I do because it's quick and simple. I don't have to apply the pulley. Of course, applying the pulley always puts a little ding in the axle because the axle is soft enough that when you apply the pulley and nip down the grub screw, you damage the axle to a small extent. And I don't like repeatedly doing that. So if I'm doing a Scalextric axle, I will flip the axle over.
Right.
But in general, the RSM3, Brian, to finish the answer, is very high quality. It's just not quite made perfectly.
I mean, even with the tire raiser, I still have unevenness. And I've talked about this before, just like you've talked about that before. Didn't RSM address some of the unevenness in the RSM4?
Apparently they did. Looking at the RSM4, it appears that one end of the shaft that the carriage rotates around is of an adjustable height in the same way that a front axle on a slot car is, insofar as there is a grub screw vertically down on it and a grub screw vertically up on it. And by backing one off and tightening the other, of course, this axle is not, it doesn't spin, the carriage just rotates around it.
Yeah.
So once it's parallel to your working surface, then yeah, there is an option to set it up a little better in the RSM4 apparently. But I bought a 3.1 because it was available. There was nothing around for a long time. I've been looking around on the second-hand market for 12
That's
months.
kind of why I asked, because the RSM4
Yeah.
seems to be the only one available at the moment. And
There is
No, last week
another one available, isn't there? Just recently.
Last week I showed another whole axle truer. Of course, there are a few different one wheel at a time truers, but for whole axle truers, there's another one on the market, but it's topping out at $250. The main difference that I noticed with that machine as compared to a tire true, as from Area 3 or Professor Motor, is that instead of just one stopper on one side of the axle bracket, there's a stopper on both sides of the axle bracket. So presumably you could, crank it down to the first stopper and then do whatever measuring you needed to do and adjust the second stopper to make sure that the other side was the same or whatever. But it looks like basically the same design as the tire raiser.
Can I ask a question about the usage of the tire raiser? You know how you do, if you do one wheel at a time on tire raiser and you crank that vertical thread to lower the carriage down to the abrasive, don't you? And then you come along and you get one wheel the size you want it. So then you come along and change that wheel. Of course, it's much bigger than the one that you've just finished truing. So you don't want to leave the cut where it is and start the thing and just wait for it to true down. You often want to back the carriage off and then bring it in again and work it down. Does it have a stopper that allows you to get back to the same place where you ended the last tire?
The tire raiser does not. The tire true does. And this new one that I showed last week, I'm blanking on the name of it, has one on both sides of the axle bracket. What I've done with my tire raiser, because it doesn't have a stopper, is I've marked it has a very large knob instead of the small knob that the tire true does. It has a very large knob.
Yeah.
So I've marked the knob with numbers and tick marks. So that once I finish one side, I remember what tick mark I stopped at, and then I back it off and start the other side and remember, I bring it down to the same tick mark. And so that's got to be within a thou, easy.
The nice thing about the RSM is it's got two of those verticals because the whole lever, there's one that works down the carriage.
Yeah.
And it just does that by pressing on the top of the carriage. But there's a second one over here that allows you to take the arm off the truer for smaller storage, smaller package. So you haven't got that threaded knob sticking out the top. And it's a thumb knob. It's a thumb screw or a big knob screw vertically down into that carriage, into that not into the carriage, into that vertical threaded. The other one, the one you adjust, it's fixed to the machine with a removable. So what I do is I true one tire, leave that one completely alone and go to the other one, back that one off. And of course it starts to come off the machine. It starts to disengage from the machine entirely. And then that means that my final cut depth is stored, if you like. And what I will do with the second one is I will slowly crank down on the other one, which brings the first one back into play. And of course that stops once it's hit the top of the tire truer and it's locked back in on the top like it would be on normal use.
Yeah,
So I like the fact that, I don't know whether everyone's spotted that feature, and I don't think it's in any manuals, but you can do it by effectively loosening one of the fixing screws that attaches it to the machine.
Well, wouldn't a simpler solution, and this might work for the tire raiser as well, is use lock nuts on the bolt that actually pushes the carriage downward?
You could put an extra nut around the thread and just go down until that homes down again.
Actually, you would use two. You would run the first one down to meet the top of the plate.
Yeah.
So you set your depth. Then you use, maybe a wing nut or even a second nut. And I would say a wing nut for ease of tightening. And you tighten the second nut on top of that to prevent that second nut from moving.
That's right.
And then you're done. I mean, there's your depth.
You could find the right thread and get them into the machine. I'm sure you can.
No, because you don't have that much space between the thing that pushes the carriage down and the bolt itself to put multiple nuts in there, and all the space in between the carriage and the base is threadless. There's no bolt there to put nuts on as a stopper, and that's where the belt goes. But maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're talking about.
Get a longer bolt.
Or you're talking about put the bolts on the very top. That would probably work. I would probably thread a nylock nut up onto the bolt that goes down, and then thread that back in, and then use the nylock as a stopper.
Well, the problem with the nylock is, are you going to be moving things around when you're trying to tighten that? Because you probably won't be able to tighten that well with your fingers. So that's why I'm saying a loose nut that you could just run down the shaft to the top. You can see on this one, and then a second wing nut on top of that just to lock that bolt in place.
Okay.
Now there's your stop. The bolt won't go below the nut.
Back it out all you like, but you won't be able to put it back down any further than it already was.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that would work. Yeah, I might have to switch for a longer bolt, but yeah, that would work.
Yep. Spend the 46 cents.
Just on that subject, and if we go back to my truer, you can see there that I've got a pointer across my knob. That piece of that blue line is a piece of very thin masking tape, and I just memorized the. I mean, you can see there are teeth on the exterior of the knob that make it a little grippier, but I don't bother to count those or mark them. I just have that line across there, and then I can, if I wish to, I can back that off and screw it back down. But you can see over there on the left the other one, and if I back that one off, the one with the blue tape across doesn't move. And of course, as I come back down, that eventually locks down on the top of the truer.
Yeah.
And I've got the same diameter tire.
Yeah, I used to have just one marker on the knob that I would try to remember the position of, like a clock. But then I decided that more marks was better.
To go beyond and print something. So
I've actually thought about doing a 3D printed thing because the Sharpie that I put on the knob is wearing off. I thought I heard Chris interjecting there for a moment. Okay. Guess
No,
what?
I was just, saying advanced engineering.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing. All
Nobody
right.
mentioned the dial indicator. That would have been the advanced engineering.
Yeah. Yeah. Put it. Oh yeah, the new
well,
accessory
there is a dial indicator attachment for the tire raiser, is there not?
for the
Yeah.
for the tire raiser or the tire true. I think it's for the tire true. I don't think John's making new pieces for the tire raiser, but the tire true, I believe I saw an accessory for that to put a dial indicator.
Yeah.
Anywho, looks like we're ready to move on. Thanks for doing all that, Wayne. And Mike, are you ready again, or should we go to Big Den? We're going to Big Den because you're still muted. So go ahead, Big Den. Whoever can unmute first.
I got it.
Oh, I heard the Big Den's first.
It's a tie.
Go ahead, Big Den.
No, go for Mike. Go for Mike.
Okay, Mike, go ahead and finish up your show and tell.
All right. So I got a couple more of these green one and a yellow one, and I'm not gonna put any liveries on them. Because I want them to be old school. Just numbers when they were real back in the 60s. So I got those two. And you know that I would have to have one of these after the race at Electric Dreams.
Yeah, that new.
Yeah.
Can anyone remind me which country was yellow? Because the green one would be British. wouldn't it?
Belgium.
Belgium.
Belgium was yellow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just nice
Paul
big
Frere.
ones like the Mercedes ran at the recent Grand Prix. They would suit the car, wouldn't they?
Did you put that Castrol on the track yet? Because I'm curious what you think about the difference in performance.
No, I have not. I just got it today. So I will, I might put an update in YouTube on my channel to try and see what happens straight out of the box.
What were you just holding up there? The
Lexan.
Oh, this is the green one. And if you look, that's the way it comes packaged,
Oh, with the wings stuck through the
with the
Lex.
wings stuck inside there. And they're really hard to get out.
I thought you were building a Lexan bodied slot car there for a minute.
That's
He's still
hilarious.
Well, it's a silhouette car. This is really a truck
Running backwards. too.
going in reverse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
racing truck, reverse racing truck.
Yeah, it looks like they've changed that because in the first lot, the front wing was underneath the base of the box.
That's
Yeah,
what I would
yeah.
expected. Yeah.
Looks like this
That's
seems
good.
like a pretty good setup.
Good deal. Nice. new
That's
car.
all I got.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Big Den, you are next, sir.
Hey, good morning, and all the other time zones. Yeah, anything I say here, Phil can interject if I say anything wrong. But what I'll first, I'm just having a look at my notes here. Dennis was coming up next, but Dennis and talking about those XJR Jaguars, when they did the teardown of Rick Jockum's car, it appeared to be using one of those new slotting plus guide spaces under the guides, the ones that fill the, the full, instead of being just a circular little washer thing, they're a plate that actually fits above the top of the guide. Were many people using those?
Not many that I know of, and I'm quite surprised that that one was there because there was talk about not being allowed because of the weight of them. Some of those ones are made of tungsten, apparently, and so if he did have one in there, it would have been a maybe just a steel one. But
Oh, Jim's here.
Dennis.
yeah, maybe we should DQ him now. Huh?
I think so.
I didn't pick up on that, so I'll check that.
You know
and
who
see.
stands to benefit from that, don't you?
Yes. So
But
someone
in
called
general,
Jim.
I would be surprised that they had anything there as a spacer because they were so focused on getting their cars as close to the track as possible. They were really
No,
getting them down low.
Well, it might have been just that's how it seemed to appear to me when Marco pulled it down. It looked like it had one of those things on it because I was thinking of getting a bunch of them from one of our local dealers.
I think they're a great idea.
Yeah.
Because as long as they fit the guide properly, because it really does. It does two things. Apart from spacing it down, it really flattens off that whole area.
Yeah.
And so it probably stabilizes the guide movement quite well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
the top
Phil
of the
and I were
guides, the moldings are not always that good.
Yeah, Phil and I were sort of talking about it the other night or the other morning or both, as time went on. And unlike yesterday morning when I would have been bright-tailed and bushy-eyed, I'm ready to go this morning. So I'll start off with a screen share if I may. And hopefully, is that coming up now?
Mm-hmm.
Coming in.
Okay. Yeah, this was the, we raced Group A touring cars at Phil's place on Tuesday night, our time. And this was the while I had borrowed a car from Phil the previous time I went down, I managed to get my own together. And this is a Ninko car. It's one of the ones with the stepped up chassis on the side. So there's not much room to put weight up in the body. So because you're allowed to put weight underneath, as long as it doesn't go below the bottom line of the chassis, I just came up with this idea of putting brass plates fixed by model railway road screws on the bottom. It gets the weight down low, and with the screw fixing, it's not going to come off and risk fouling the track or the braids or anything like that. So the Ninko Sparker motor was probably a little bit underpowered, or maybe a lot underpowered. So I was about, the winning score was 100 laps, I think, and I did 91, which included a little adventure of running into someone and knocking the motor out. But fortunately, someone was able to snap it back in fairly quickly, so I didn't lose a lot of laps.
Hold on, Big Dan, isn't knocking a motor out allowed under Aussie rules slot car racing?
Yeah, well, for anyone else it is, but I don't go much on it at all, John.
It'd be allowed on a Canadian ice rink, wouldn't it, John?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We don't have any Cujos in slot car racing down here, so there's something that's just another look at the top of the chassis, showing where the bolts come through to hold everything together. Between the plastic of the bottom of the chassis and the where the brass is plate, I've just put some old 1/8 spacers just to get it down a little bit lower and kept the weight down lower. The only weight I've got on top, of course, there is the in the well there and the.
Darling, did you say there was pizza or something? Okay.
I thought Chris was going to ask you whether or not the motor was bogged down somewhat by the amount of weight that you put in the car there.
I want pizza.
Well, I did. Yeah, me too.
Chris is buying pizza.
I did think about that.
Pizza.
Okay, sorry, Big Dan, go ahead.
So I did think about that, Wayne. So I actually had a second chassis, and after the racing, it's got one of the 17,500 Predator long cans in it. As Greg will probably notice, I butchered the chassis a little bit there to allow space for the Predator to fit into the hole normally taken up by the Sparker motor. And the mounting at the front is the front half of a Ninko bracket, so that's and it's just glued in there. It's glued and screwed to keep it all together. When I put that on the track, way too much power for the car. So I managed to get someone under the influence of, you got him well and truly lick it up later in the night, and he had one of these around, which is an SRP motor, the same size as a Sparker. So I'll give that a try eventually. Now, the next photo, if I've got my numbers done correctly, seeing Chris and Dennis have had competitions in the past couple of episodes, I'm just going to put this one up and see if anyone can shed any light on that. If you say it's an early Walker or an early Samson, I don't think it's going to be a very popular choice.
It looks like the chassis was made for an F1 of some sort.
Yeah,
Formula car of some sort.
Well, it's got funny things. Yeah, it's actually on eBay locally. I've dubbed it an HOS chassis. We've all heard of HRS, but this is HOS, and you can guess what the three letters stand for, because it's. I did think it probably had some historical value in that it looked to be made with Bronze Age tools or something like that. It's such a crude effort. So. But I do know the guy who's got it up on eBay, and he started it off at $55 Australian, went round the merry-go-round 3 times without a bid, surprisingly, and he's dropped it to $40 now, and
go around another 3 times.
Yeah, well, I thought when he said he was open to offers, I thought, well, I might give him $3 for the guide and braid, because they don't look too bad at all.
Nice.
Wow. Mm.
What kind of body is that? Oh, there's the body there. Okay.
There's the body. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like the I don't know what the wheel arches were cut out.
He might not be
But,
getting his asking price because he's not written the word rare in the title.
And he didn't win concourse with that one, I don't think. So.
Well, Wayne, there's a difference between rare and undercooked.
Yeah. Now, Chris and Dennis will no doubt know what this one is. It's it's one of Ernie Mazzetti's SR1001 steel chassis that fit the slotted cars. Wheelbase can be adjusted to this area here. The only thing I'm a little bit surprised is how low this chassis is at the front with these standard slotted front wheels on. So I'm trying to cook up some scheme where I can maybe move the body mounting back and just build a little sub assembly on the front. So either that or I've got to use bigger wheels. The chassis I picked. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a new front. This was the position of the axle holes in the front uprights was a bit of a mistake. They should have been lower down. And there is no provision on the front end of this to adjust the ride height on either left or right hand wheel.
Yeah.
So there's a new plate out now with adjustable uprights on either side, plastic uprights that you can adjust the front wheel heights, and it's a much better. Makes the chassis much better.
Yeah, I made the comment to Phil that I'd probably modify that, and he said, "Yeah, good luck with that." He said, "It's spring steel." He said, "You have fun drilling or cutting or filing it." Anyway, we'll work something out.
It's stainless. It's spring.
Stainless, sorry, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Incidentally, this and we're talking about HRS chassis a couple of moments ago. I was visiting a friend who's had to give up slot car racing due to health concerns because he has to travel quite a way to get to our racing. And we were talking about HRS. So he said, "Oh, I've got a couple of those out in the shed." He said, "I'll put them in the bag for when you go." So when I got the bag home, not only were there the two HRS chassis, there was this as well. And I thought, well, gee, this is a bit expensive to give away, and not only but then gears and pinions, and it was a real grab bag, and I felt a bit embarrassed, and thinking I was going to get a couple of HRS chassis, and I got all this good stuff. So anyway, I'll sort out something with them on that. So that's just a look.
Did you get the guide tongue with that then?
Yeah, Chris, I got it. I just pulled it apart.
Okay.
I was trying to think. Yeah, I was just trying to come up with ways of changing the ride height. So I pulled the guide tongue off it. So
I've just had a thought, Dennis, if I can interrupt. If you can cut those front mounts off, you could use a couple of those adjustable front axle blocks that I've printed out and glue them onto the chassis. Might be worth a look at.
Yeah, well, I'll bring it down for you to do next time I visit.
Thanks, mate. Left me before 12 o'clock, though, because I have problems after 12 of a night.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of moisture comes out,
Very damp at times.
Dennis earlier mentioned that you should put some tyres in the fridge to cool them down before you try to true them. Well, of course, you've got to take the beer out first to make room for the tyres to go in. So
that's the problem.
You don't put them in the fridge, you put them in the freezer.
Freezer. Yeah, okay. We like our
beer. It's only donuts I keep in the fridge, mate.
Yeah, okay. Right, so the next thing is we had I'll do Club Corner a bit later, but this one here is I showed the car a while back on one of the calls, and I actually ran this as made from a snap kit, and running it on a Mercury Cougar chassis, one of Dennis's favourite Trans Am cars, of course. It handles like nothing at all. This one went quite well, actually. I need to redo the body mounts, but I was quite happy with the way it performed last Saturday when I raced. So
those chassis are not bad. It's just the way the body sits on them. It's not really.
Yeah, I've actually got. I mean, I can put the front. It sits up a bit at the front if I go back to that one. You can't see it in that photo, but I can lower that down. But I'll just redo the body mounts. It was pretty much just jury rigged together. So I'll stop the share there and hand over to you, I guess.
Dennis,
Nice.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Big Den, was that a Scalectric or Pioneer chassis?
Scar Electric,
Oh, okay.
John. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No worry.
What guide did you put in that?
I think it's one of the slotting plus ones cut down, Greg.
So screw mount.
Yeah. Yeah. Cut the size and screw mount at the top. Yeah.
All right, good things, good stuff. Thanks, Big Den. Mr. Sampson, you are next. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Phil may remember this car.
Yep.
Some years
Certainly
back,
do, Dennis. Except I liked it when it was red, mate. It looked a lot better and sounded a lot better when it was bright red around Longford.
some years back, we had the very first Ford versus Ferrari proxy race, and it went quite around the world. It was long before the movie came out, and I did two cars. I did this car, which is a 350 Can-Am, and I did a Mirage M1 in the Gulf colors, because both of those cars I'd seen race in South Africa. And this particular body actually was made by Phil, and that's why I brought it out tonight for you guys to have a look-see. It's a resin body. I don't know where he got it, where he started, how he did it, but it was
Actually, Dennis, it's David Bandoff did some modifications to that for me. He helped me cut the headlights into it and altered the rear end to make it more representative of the original car. And then I molded it from there.
All right. So this was a Hobart collaboration, then, I suppose, right? But yeah, really, really pretty little car. The decals came from my friend Alan Patterson in Cape Town in South Africa. The chassis came from Samson Slotworks in California. And it runs really well, always has. I think it came in, I don't remember now where in the proxy, in the top 5 or 6, I think. But yeah, it was a good little car. But I just when I saw Phil on the call, I thought, I got to pull this one out. He made me a Lola T160 that's still in the box. I've never actually built it yet, so that's still an outstanding project. And these are years and years ago. I guess
It was a long time ago, Dennis.
Yeah.
And
I guess this was. It was chassis number 609. So that takes us back nearly 300 chassis of mine. So yeah, it was 7 years back probably.
But it's well after that Porsche that you sent out here for one of my proxy races, mate. That was a lot earlier than that.
Yeah, that was 2005, I think.
Something like that.
That around the world Can-Am one that I sent. It was a Better Bodies styrene 91730. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have that
It
car.
went very
still
well.
runs
It
pretty
just
well.
didn't. It went very well. It just quite didn't suit our tiny tracks down here. That was all.
Yeah, and you guys are used to much heavier cars. I seem to remember was the discussion at the time. Anyway,
But
that's me for now.
That Ferrari, I actually watched race at Longford, and it was the most impressive car. And the sound of it at 8 o'clock in the morning at practice at Longford over the little village up there was fantastic.
Yeah, it was Paul Hawkins running it at the time, I guess.
No, Chris Armand run it down here.
Oh,
and
okay.
Warwick Brown. Yes, that's when local guy David McKay managed to get his hands on it for quite some time and cut the headlights into it. And the unusual thing about it running at Longford, it had a spare wheel taped onto the back of it to comply with the FIA regulations at the time.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, that's me for now.
Great looking car as always, Dennis. Thanks for sharing. And Chris, do you have something to show and tell? Just double checking before I move.
Not really show. Your car now has been painted. But I mean, it was white. Now it's white. So
Now it's whiter.
it's just a little smoother and shinier white. So I'm really snookered until I get I can't do any of the detail stuff. That's all goes on at the very end. So I'm just patiently waiting.
Yep. And I think John is about to send or recently sent bodies to Mr.
Yeah, I've got the package actually together. I just haven't popped it in the post yet.
Okay. Yep.
Since my leg actually kind of works now, I can get around a wee bit.
Again, no time frame. So when it happens, it happens. Hopefully Mr. McKenzie has some time to work on that. So thanks for that update, Chris. And Jeremy put his hand up. What you got, Jeremy?
Nothing exciting, but last time I was here, I talked about trying to find clips for these, and then Chris said try pins, and so I did. I've got the pins. I've soldered in, kind of like, I had a little trouble soldering it. I messaged him, but I finally figured it out how to do it. So thank you for the advice on that, Chris.
No problem. Did you end up putting any body armor or reinforcing on the body?
I have not yet. What would you recommend on that, on the inside of the body?
Yeah,
Just like medical tape or something?
There's all kinds of options. If you go to a Bass Pro Shop or a camping store, they'll sell adhesive back nylon webbing used for repairing tents. So you can cut a little square of that and put it on the inside of the body if you want. Most commercial shops will still sell stuff called body armor, which is an adhesive back Lexan. So you can cut little squares of that and it's clear, so you can put it on the outside or the inside. Or you can use some, fiber tape, but it doesn't look as nice. And
yeah, I'll take a look at that. I'm the first person in our club to use pins. Everybody else is using the clip, so we'll see how it goes.
Pins are a much better idea.
Yeah, we'll see.
And once if you get some body armor that's on there, then you can. It's nice and hard. And if you then open up the hole where the pin goes through ever so slightly, and you put a decent bend in the pin so it holds it in place, you can actually back the pins out about 10 thousandths and get a little bit of rattle on the body like the clips used to give you.
How did you can you take the body off, Jeremy?
Yeah, but it's going to take a few seconds. Why don't you guys go ahead without me? I'll come back to you.
Go ahead, John Kitt.
Oh, I thought that no one else had anything, so I was just going to show something that I actually found while putting stuff together for Iceman. Check this out.
Oh, the Palmer.
Yeah.
Ugly.
Cool?
70.
Hideous looking thing.
Oh, but it's to scale. It's actually accurate.
I'll give you 40 cents for it.
And actually, it's the complete kit too. So look at that. Isn't that cool? And of course, it's always good to model a race car in olive drab green.
Well,
and that's not a copy of that's not off the monogram mold, is it?
No,
this was their own. Yeah, because they that's right. Palmer copied a lot of monogram stuff. Yeah. Like if you read the side here, it says there's the 904, the Ford GT, Chaparral I think was from monogram. The Lola 70 wasn't. What else?
The Lola Mark 6 was.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. The Lola GT. Yep.
Does it have one-piece wheels and tires, or do you have separate tires on that?
Oh, separate tires. Yeah.
Oh, so you might have got a windshield with yours then. That's a Series 2 kit.
Oh yeah. Oh no, this is the windshield here, but the tires are just pathetic.
Well, they're
it's a model.
Probably to scale. The Series 1, the first Series 1 had plastic wheels and tires all in one, molded in same body color, and they didn't have windshields.
Oh, you're kidding.
No.
That's hilarious. But I just thought I'd show that because I don't know about you. I just love the box. I think the box is just awesome.
Yeah. Where did you find it?
Oh, actually, I have more things than I care to.
Oh, okay. It's one of those that you were looking for something else at the time. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
I get
Yeah. All I can say is whoever has to look after my stuff when I'm gone, you're screwed.
That's what dumpsters are for.
At least that's what our kids say, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'm going to spotlight Jeremy. Go ahead.
Hey, Chris. So what I did was I put brass tubing here,
Yeah.
and on the four corners, and then the
Perfect.
pin goes through, and then I just kind of sand it off the
Yeah,
part.
perfect. Perfect.
What you can do on your next go round is you can leave the front pin tubes as one piece of brass,
Okay,
just a solid straight piece.
straight all the way through
Yeah.
Piece of
Then
across the
tube,
whole
yeah.
thing. Okay,
You can buy some little collars, or you can use the next size up piece of brass and cut two pieces of 1/16 and 1/8 of an inch long. Open up the holes where the brass cross piece is going to go through so it rattles a tiny little bit. And then use the two pieces of the size up brass soldered in place so the front tube will just move around a little bit on you.
so the collars just hold it from coming out, and
Yep.
it just has a
Correct.
little vibration in there. Okay,
Yeah. Now you can buy hippie shaky little collars that do that. Probably way cheaper, and you get more if you just buy a piece of brass tube.
just a
one
brass
size.
tube and collar it. Yeah, okay, I'll do that on my next one. Thank you.
Alrighty, looks like we're done with. What was that, Dennis?
I was just going to say that the loose tube across the front is actually a good idea. Shaker tube, they call them.
I'll do that on my next. I got another one I got to do this weekend, so I'll play around with that.
All right, show and tell for next week.
Actually, one more thing, Jeremy. Put
Yeah.
them up again.
But what?
Put it up.
Okay.
Are you? How much ground clearance is under there?
I haven't measured it.
Not
I was
much,
just happy to get it running. There's enough.
Okay.
But
not much at the front, quite a bit at the rear.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I just threw these wheels on because I had some silicone tires that fit.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Super tires. I had super tires laying around. I was like, man, nobody finds these anymore. So I was going to use them.
There's all kinds of funky things you can do with these chassis. Like you can
Oh, yeah.
bend up the whole rear motor bracket a little bit and then use different gears. So you're going to raise the rear axle in relationship to the center line of the motor, make it a hypoid. Now you can lower there's all kinds of tricks and stuff.
Yeah. You're
If
getting way too
racing-
advanced
if
for
you're
me. I'm just
racing in a
happy to
club and
solder.
Everybody's doing the same thing. Don't do any of that.
Yeah. Yeah, we have one guy who's like the dentist of chassis here. And so when he gets tired of cars, he sells them to everybody. So everybody's got one of his cars. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to start with my own. So, I think we lost Greg.
No,
Yeah.
you're in a
Oh,
good.
there it goes.
You're in the right place to get more tuning tips. Obviously, Phil put his hand up. What you got, Mr. Caldwell?
A couple of weeks ago, someone was looking for an Mazda RX-3 body. One of the Johns, I think it was. I'm not sure which one, but I thought I'd just show this, if you can see that.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a
There you
3D
go.
printed. The file's available for download with that, but it hasn't got the flares on it that John was looking for. But there's a guy in North Queensland that's on Facebook, North Brisbane Slots. He produces that body with the flares on it for sale through Facebook. So as I know he was going to talk, the two Johns were going to talk, I think, about moulding it. But, you know, by the time you buy silicon and mould it, it might be valuable to look at buying one of them off the guy in
Bill,
Queensland.
you just saved 2 weeks of my life.
I
And
know.
probably $60 worth of silicon as well, isn't that right, John?
Exactly.
But it's the same price. I just went and
Yeah.
brought resin the other day and it had gone up another $40.
Yeah, it's gone
Yeah.
up. It's gone up. Yeah.
I know
Yes,
that.
and I
the
assume
North,
silicon has.
the North Briz
Yeah.
guys does a lot of 124. Is that body in 132 or 124?
He does any size you like. You tell him what
Okay, so
size
the
you want
3D,
it,
he'll
and
just-
he'll
yeah.
print it out. I notice he seems to have changed now from filament to resin printing.
Yeah.
I haven't seen his resin stuff. His filament stuff I wasn't impressed with. But the resin stuff I should imagine would be a lot better. Yeah, I don't do bodies in resin, so I don't know. I only do filament. And the files I get are usually pretty good quality because they come from Vlad anyhow. So yeah. But I just thought I'd show that and might save you guys some work. Thank you.
Yeah. John
just got-
gets relieved.
It's there it is. Yeah, not a problem, John.
John,
Yeah.
John Kitt, have you
So,
got anybody to
so-
print? Have you got anybody to print you a moldable? So like they sell resin that you can turn into a casting. Has anybody sent you anything like that to try?
No.
No. Okay. All right.
No.
I just got a resin printer last month and started. I've been going crazy with stupid stuff for my kids and stuff. So, but I saw that they do make castable resins. So I guess you would make the mold and then heat it up and melt it out of there.
Oh,
I don't
so
know.
in other words, so I guess instead of printing the positive, it actually prints the mold so you can pour something in it.
I think so. I don't know. I was hoping this was your
Yes.
area.
I've tried that a little bit.
Did it work?
It's not bad, but I couldn't get the quality that I got from moulding in a good master. I mean, I'm like John Kidd. I'm old school with this, and we use die cast and things like that that are fairly well made for our masters, and the resin isn't in the same class unless you spend 8 or 10 hours finishing them off, polishing them, and getting them up to the same quality, and then remoulding in silicon again.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Phil. The best, once you start casting, the better the original that you can make it, the better the copies will be. You're absolutely right.
Yes, yeah, because the silicon picks up every little mark on the body. That's for sure. And one thing I will say, John thought he had a bit of a problem with resin casting figures. I've started sorting out my shed, and I found over 120 moulds of figures in my shed. So if you've got a problem, must have an addiction, mate.
That's okay. Listen, we'll start a club.
Yeah, mold addiction. Thank you, guys. I've got to go anyway. I've got to go to the doctor. Bye.
Thanks, Phil.
Alan might be joining that club. What did you want to throw in there, Alan?
There's the latest out of my rosin print.
That's awesome. What is that?
This is a Capri GT 3100.
Is that 1/32 scale, Alan?
This is 1/43, and the 132 is printing as we talk.
Wow, the detail's really nice.
And that looks good.
Good looking print.
Now, how long did that take to print, Alan?
This took approximately 2 hours.
Wow, that's really good.
And have
How many can you fit on your build plate then? Just one?
It depends on the printer that I'm using. I've got one that I can put 3 of the 1/43s on, or 1 of the 32s. And then I've got another printer where I can actually put 3 of the 132s on and print them at the same time.
Where did you get
What
the
printer
file
are you
from?
actually using?
Two questions. Where did you get the file from? And then Phil wanted to know which printer you're actually using.
This file came from, I can't remember the gentleman's last name, but his first name is Mitch. And
On
he's
Home
out of
Race World?
Holland.
Is it on the Home Race World 3D forum?
Not to
Or
my
you just-
knowledge, no.
How do you find this guy, Mitch? Where do you find him at?
Well, he has some of his stuff on Colts 3D.
Okay.
And what's really fascinating about it, or great, his files, he actually does in 1/12 or 1/8, and then of course you got to scale them from there. But it's a ripped as far as US dollars is concerned, all his files are less than $10. Which to
Can
me
you find
is
the
a
link?
steal.
Can you throw the link in the chat here if you find it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put one in there for you.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then what
And then,
printer are you using?
Would you say, Greg?
What is the actual printer you use for that print?
This one is the new, I don't know what the heck they call it. It's the Anycubic Mod 8K. And it's got a pretty decent sized build plate on it.
Thanks for that. I've got a Anycubic Mono X, but with the middle size one, and I'm still struggling with it a bit for doing bodies. So I'm interested.
I guess I'm lucky. All the rosin printing I've got, I've done nothing more than use the defaults, and I'm getting spectacular results.
When you
talking
print
with
that,
Fred not too long ago, I got a new FDM printer, which is the Prusa Mark III, and I got that as a kit. I took my time putting it together, probably about 4 or 5 days. Just a few hours. In fact, what's printing right now, I've got another 1 hour and 4 minutes on a 37-hour print. And I am just ecstatic looking at it over my left shoulder. There isn't a flaw in it. And I hear all these horror stories, guys on the internet. Oh, goddamn thing don't work. It's dumpster. I'm throwing it in the dumpster and shit. I guess I'm lucky. I'm using the defaults.
They're not talking about a Prusa when they say they're throwing it in the dumpster. That's for sure.
No, I have no connection with them whatsoever. And I thank Greg for giving me a clue to take a look at them.
Best thing I ever did. I changed from a cheap printer to a Prusa about 12 months ago, and it was the best decision I ever made. You just put it together and it works.
I even went so far as to, I got what is called the MMU2, which is the multi filament. You can use different types filaments, or you can use different colors and select them. So there's none of this loading, unloading of the filament and everything. And you get on the internet, you see all these horror stories about that quote unquote piece of shit. Again, I got the kit. I put it together. I followed the instructions. I threw it on there. Spectacular results.
Alan, you have to acknowledge that you're a modeler, my friend, and a lot of people can't put two pieces of it. Couldn't even build a jigsaw properly, some people. So I'm not surprised that a little bit of engineering background would stand you in good stead to build a printer properly.
It's normally those people that, raise hell about the product, when in reality, it's their lack of whatever.
It's actually the engineers who have the most trouble, because they believe they know how to do it. And so they power through and ignore all the steps.
And they don't read the instructions.
I've never read the instructions in my life.
The Prusa assembly manual, if you buy the kit, is literally put this screw with a scale picture of the screw and the length and measurement, and everything is packaged by steps. Put this screw here, don't tighten it too much, etc. And they emphasize things that are important. And if you follow it step by step, just like Alan said, you get a fantastic workhorse printer that just never lets you down. But as I've experienced with trying to help other people nearby, you can't just put it together thinking you know what you're doing, because then you're going to skip something important and end up with a printer that doesn't work. So
what's even impressive about the instructions with the Prusa, and this is something that I was amazed when I saw it. And again, having my background and been in manufacturing before with electronic stuff, we thought we had some pretty decent assembly instructions.
Wow.
And I saw the Prusa, and they had one thing in there that I never thought of. Not only what Greg was saying is the step-by-step procedure, but it's even color coded. Yeah. It'll call out the part. It'll have say a red dot next to it or a red arrow. And then in the color picture is a red arrow showing you where that part goes. Yeah. You can't screw up unless you're colorblind.
Or you just skip stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can...
My first printer was an AA-net. So you can imagine what the assembly instructions for that were like. So the Prusa was good.
Yeah.
There's the 37-hour print, still gone.
Yeah.
I got exactly 59 minutes left.
Nice.
Where do the wheels go on that then?
No wheels. This is for a printer enclosure that I have inbound from France.
Okay. Yep.
Hey, Alan, when you're printing in resin a body, how are you orienting the model? Are you just leaving it level? Are you turning it, at a 45-degree angle?
It depends on what I'm printing.
Just like
rule, all my bodies, car bodies, I put at a 40-degree angle going this way, and then another 15 degrees tilted.
Okay.
And
I just haven't printed any bodies yet.
Any layer lines that way.
Okay. So about 40 in a little angle. And then are you using a raft underneath it with like light supports, or? Just
I use the supports, and what I do is I let the machine select
auto?
the supports.
Okay.
But then I go back in and edit those because they're not all 100% correct.
Okay.
And
Thanks.
I use either Jitsu box for that, or I'm also using Lychee.
Yeah, I just started on Lychee. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good stuff, Fallon. And I think we're probably ready to move on to Club Corner. If there's any club activities anybody wants to talk about, now is the time. Mr. Rose put his hand up. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, there's not many
Oh,
people.
wow.
I don't think there's anybody from the Sacramento group on this chat. I've invited them, so hopefully that they will be. A lot of fully landscaped tracks. This is a class they just started, and I don't race with them as often as I do with the Bay Area, just because the way things have evolved. But I just thought I'd show this event they had. They have 2-lane, 3-lane, 4-lane tracks, and everybody got a Penelope pit lane kit, put it together, detailed it. If you go to Gold Country Slot Cars on YouTube, you'll find their videos of these cars running. I mean, these are just amazing. And so I'm hoping to get into this as well. Everybody did a great job of building these. I've talked to a couple of Mario, who I think Dennis met down in LA. They run really good. They're not overpowered. I think it's a 13K motor in these things, and they just run really good given the size of the tires and wheels. So they're just, looks like they're a blast to run, and I'm hoping to get one and put one together. So
Who carries those? Who carries those?
Slot.
Pendle? Okay.
They look great, Jim. They really look cool.
There's a
Done
video
a
on
nice
their
job.
site on how to build them, how to build the car, and how to paint the body. Painting the body is pretty easy if you have that experience, because it's all one color. Detailing the body and detailing the driver and so on. So I just thought I'd show this. This is Gold Country Slot Cars based out of Sacramento. The next one is our championship series starts this weekend. I know we've got a conflict with Electric Dreams, that we've got too many races right now. Good problems to have. We're going to run Group C in another class, but we're going to run Formula One September, October, and November. Those 3 events are qualifying races. So the top 3 and the top 6 in points after the first 3 qualifying races will run a championship final on the same day as the last points race. And that will be a 6-car A main for the title. So it's kind of like NASCAR. You qualify the play, and then you make the playoffs, which in this case is the final race, and it's winner take all. So I know a lot of slot car associations have series, but for us, it's not too practical, because a lot of times it just turns out to be the guy that's there every time wins the championship, because not everybody can make it. So this is going to be a winner take all 3-race championship. We're doing the same thing at Fast Track Hobbies in Sacramento, but the championship will be for Slotted Group C, same format. And then lastly, this is cool. We've got a new track coming to Sacramento area. This is an 8x20 footprint. It's called Barcelona. That's the unofficial name, because the dog that resides at Ted Essie's house is named Cody, and he is going to be the overseer of this track. But it's Bob Scott's building it, 8x20, 4-lane. Looks to be a absolutely phenomenal addition to the racing scene in Sacramento. So that should be hopefully built within a month or so.
Can you build the marshals while you're there?
Well, the person that actually drew these plans up is Ian Douglas, another racer in Northern California. And he drew the plans up in scale on Illustrator, and then put the first design, there's no place to marshal. Or there's not enough room to get in there to marshal one of these corners. So he put in the ideal marshaling spots, and trying to think of everything that goes into a good track. Not only the track, but is it easy to marshal? Will it race well, and so on? So this is coming up fairly soon, it looks like. So
That is nice.
So that's it for me for Northern California.
Wow.
It's always good to see a new track coming around.
Yeah, it's that's not even talking about HO, because the person that's putting that in, Ted Essie, has an HO track downstairs. This is going upstairs in a loft type area. So he has a first class Brad Bowman HO track, which we raced on last weekend, and we have a first class 32nd scale track going upstairs. So things are going well in Northern California and the Sacramento area.
Good stuff. Thanks, Jim. And Big Den, you are next.
Thank you. For your marshalling problem, Jim, all you need is to clone Mark Natividad, and you know, he can run around and marshal the lot of them, you know, the way he moves around. So
one of the best ones I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Lively.
Okay, I'll just
dedication beyond the call of duty.
I don't think you're charging enough there, though, Jim. $5 for the day's racing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason for that, and the reason is home tracks in Northern California don't charge. So we can't, I didn't want to try to put a big price tag on racing at commercial tracks, enough for them to make some money, but not enough where, well, I can race at whoever's house for free. I'm just not going to go to this commercial track. So that's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Okay, you got some muscle going on, Big Den.
Yeah, so after a couple of months break at Grumpy's Garage with our host KC, we got back to some racing. Initially we had 8 people turn up. Then in the first race, the muscle cars, we had a computer problem with, you know, the screen segments blanking out and shotgunning, or what they call it, and laps not counting. By that, yeah, we had to abandon the results, but because by then I was well ahead, so it was just,
Or so the rumor has it.
Yeah, yes. Well, so no, in fact, I think I was running about second of those who completed their runs by then. But a bit of a low profile look at the cars there, because our young racer Bill, who's about 9 or 10, he kindly did the photos for us, and see I'm missing a half the grill on the GTO there. It's in a box here somewhere. We managed to get the racing going, get the track going again, the lap counting and everything going. Just another look back view of the muscle cars there. Next up was GT2 with Revo slots. Someone must have left there. Oh, sorry, yeah. One guy, one chap who drove in from far away. He ran the Marcos after Bill had finished racing it. So 2 of the guys left after the problems started with the computer. They didn't think it was going to get going again. But those 6 of us who remained had a really good day. Because KC was the one who was having computer problems, I dubbed it the YKC bug, and he didn't go much on that for a minute until he saw the funny side of it. So the 2 cars at the back are both mine. Interestingly enough, this custom livery, the car started chattering at the back, and I took it off, and I found out that the rear splitter thing, or diffuser, had actually come loose and gone up inside the body, and so it was jamming up the works at the back. So I thought, if it's going to work loose, doesn't it fall out? Yeah. So that theory went out of the way. It's out of the window. So anyway, I managed to have a couple of good runs with the White Viper to end the race. So results there, and Dave, who's a guy that owns the other track in our area, he had a pretty good run there. Obviously, and the close racing between the guys there in second and third. We then moved on to Formula One, which was one guy didn't have a monoposto or an NSR, so he ran his. I think it was the young fella. He ran his Polycar early model. Dave again. I thought I'd taken pictures of the results, but I didn't have them. But I know for sure that Dave won. That's my car in second. That sadly I loaned it to someone else, or he did all right with it. And because I thought it'd be easier for him to drive the NSR than to drive the long wheelbase monoposto, so Dave first, Kevin second, Den third, on the same lap as the other NSR car. So this NSR car's now got a that one ran with a baby Raptor 17.5 motor in it, so it was a little bit easier to drive around the tight track. Moving right along. I'm not sure whether Phil's still on, but this is some stuff from down in Hobart for these cars are very narrow, 48mm maximum track, and they're based on the old MRRC Sebring chassis. So you've got to, they can only be a certain width. Jim will probably be happy to see the little Datsun over there, number 6 on the, I think he mentioned on one of the recent calls that he'd like someone to actually make one, one of the big companies. That was the results of their first race. I think they've only had one round, and the little, I think it was a 71 Skyline KPMG or something like that. Oh no, that's an accounting firm. But it ran third anyway. It was good enough to run third. Yes, yeah. It has got some numbers, like some letters like that. Sorry about that. And just to look at some of the other cars, that this is an Australian Falcon there by the look of it on the number one car, a Mercedes of some breed, I think, and just another look, and that is an HQ Holden Australian car again, about 1971, and I think that's about and that's my inept photography when I took a photo of nearly had it photo. So that's me for the share and tell, the visual element. There was just a couple of questions for other people. Earlier John had the Lola kit up, and someone was talking about having windscreens and combination molded tires and wheels. I had a Hawk kit like that, a Hawk Lotus 30, and it had the one-piece wheels and tires molded in plastic, and it didn't have a windscreen.
Right.
And no windscreen. Yeah, yes, Chris, that's right, exactly right. So yeah.
Well, and the same with those things. They did a Series 2 kit, which had vinyl plastic separate tires with wheels and a windscreen.
Yeah.
And it was also released by Testers at some point, wasn't it?
Don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah. And I'd just like to make a comment on the Prusa printer. When you don't know what it is and you're sleeping in the room next to somebody's Prusa printer, and you wake up in the middle of the night and you hear and you wonder whether there's something going wrong with your ears, you've got tinnitus or something. And finally I worked out that Phil was doing an overnight print job, so I went back to, I managed to get some sleep after that when I knew what it was. So you do have problems with.
Good thing it was a Prusa, because otherwise you wouldn't have been able to fall back asleep.
Right, that'll do me. I'll let someone else have a game.
All right, thanks, Big Den. And Mike, you've got your hand up.
Oh, let's see if am I muted?
No, you're good.
No, I'm not muted. Well, we had Ghost Card this week for 3 races, and that was interesting. The first Ghost Car, the first round, 125 lap race, the Ghost Car started adding laps to my score, so I really won big. It was kind of funny because I have no idea how, why, or what, but it would add a lap to mine every time it came by. So don't know. I shut the thing down eventually after the race. We sort of figured out where each of us was.
You have the APB on your track, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, but you upgraded the firmware, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, so never mind.
Yeah, it's 1.09 firmware.
It shouldn't be happening.
No, but it was, and I shut the thing down and rebooted it for the second race, and it was fine. So the other thing that happened when it was doing that, it would it would be sporadic as far as its speed goes. You know, sometimes it would speed up and do laps like 2 seconds faster than it normally would. But it really made a lot of interest in, and the other guys that I raced with is named Mike too. And he said that he used to change lanes grudgingly because one lane is faster than the other. And the only time you use it is to go into the pits or to pass somebody. Well, now he had to think ahead about passing someone, because if you waited behind him, the next guy could come around, go on the inside lane and go right by you without any problem. And I did that a number of times, as a matter of fact, because I figured out it was like, oh, that's a really bonus if I can get there first. And so it made you have to plan ahead for a pass, like 2 lane changers ahead. And I think I've got, let's see, 2, 3, 4. I think I've got 6 lane changers in now. So we've got short spurts now where we can get at it, you know, to do a quickie lane change if you want to. And it really was a lot more fun. It was difficult. It made the racing really close. And the last race that we had, I hit the wrong button on fuel and started doing damage and lost the race. So I was like, ah.
It's interesting you should mention that, Mike. Since last week, I've been to your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And taken a look at a couple of your videos, and I did notice a strong preference towards what is essentially the outside lane.
Yep.
So you mentioned that the inside lane is slower, did you say?
Yeah, it's about 1/2 to 3/4 of a second slower, depending upon how well your car handles.
So why is that then? What do you put that down to? Because it looks like
the corners are a little tighter on the outside runs, and so they're harder to get around.
Okay, so the tighter corners are on the outside, where the inside has extra tight, and the wider corners
Yeah.
in field where the outside has the advantage. Okay.
Yeah, and the biggest problem is that it's tighter at what we're calling the kink. It's not the real kink in Road America. But if you look where the sign is for the kink, that's where it is what we're calling the kink, because it becomes, thanks, Garth.
Get a new sign for you.
I'm going to get that sign up one of these days. I've got it printed out. I just have to do it.
Let's hope there's not so many heart attacks.
Yes.
Thrills, chills, and spills, and broken wings.
Yeah.
Over
Like 200 cars racing.
So someone's seen this collection.
Over 200 cars.
Oh, I didn't see that. Anyway, it was much more interesting when we put I didn't put random lane changing on, because that sort of caused a problem last time we did it. It made it interesting, but not as interesting as putting the car in the dominant outside lane. And that meant you had to pass him. And although he was 2 seconds a lap slower, set speed, it still made it, and we ended up lapping the Ghost car 5 or 6 times during a 125 lap race. But the last one, I think I got it closer to correct timing so that we didn't pass him quite so often. But if it was stuck in the outside lane, that would mean you have to dive on the inside. And that made the race really interesting. And it was tight, because you have to really start thinking about what you're doing. It's not just, how good your finger is. And that's my objection to the regular slot car racing, where, analog style, is that, the guy with the fastest finger and fastest car that doesn't come off wins. Well, this is a lot more strategic. So those of us that aren't as gifted physically can actually do something. So it was great fun. We really enjoyed it. And the videos are not up yet, but they will be probably tonight.
With the Ghost.
Yes.
Awesome. Looking forward to watching that.
Yeah.
All right, Alan, you put your hand up.
Yeah, I did. Is it okay to go back to a little show and tell? I forgot something.
Sure, let's open the floor.
All right. Again, going back to 3D printing and show you how you can get totally carried away with this. Try and make it as short as I can. I'm building a new track. It's Carrera, but I have one area that's going to branch off into a single lane rally track. And I've got an overabundance of Carrera track, and I said, I gotta have a way of cutting this. And here's the end result. You know, just a single piece. But now I'll try and get over to a share screen here.
What you're building sounds like it's almost a rallycross track with part circuit, part off road.
Looks like I may have lost it. Okay, there.
There we go.
See that?
Yep.
Okay. I don't have it quite oriented right the way it is, but as you can see, if you turn this 180 out, right here, this little slot is where a number 11 X-Acto blade comes through by about 2/10 of an inch. This is the stopper that goes up against the side of the track. I don't know if I'll be able to show this or not, but I'll stop the sharing. And this
So
is
you're just, are
this
you
is
just
nothing but a
storing?
piece of paper right
Are
now,
you-
and I will be printing this out. This goes up against the side of the track, and you do nothing more than you run that blade down 2 or 3 times, and it cuts that track perfectly in half.
So it's like a rip fence.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you know what else that would be really useful for, Alan, is if you have, you know, the Carrera sort of elevated piece of track that has sort of like an S to it.
Yeah.
They don't make borders for that. So actually what I did was I got an extra set and cut it in half and then basically glued it to create a border for it. So that your tool would be perfect for that.
Okay. The only thing I have to do here is, because this is for the straight pieces, I'm also putting in the necessary length and everything to be able, the radius will be dictated by this measurement right here. I'll print multiple ones for the curves. So I'll be able to split curves also. And again, I don't know if you can see the dotted line and everything, but this is the simple X-Acto that goes down into there. And as you can see, the large cylindrical part bottoms out about halfway down, and then the blade comes through a very narrow passageway. So it's real nice and strong. And then I went ahead and put this angled piece on here, which makes it easier to hold on and push. Works great. I'm done.
I was just about to say, how do you do curve pieces? But you have already got that one figured out. Gonna make things for different curve sizes. Works great.
So you can definitely get carried away with this 3D printing.
I've got a quick picture for Dan if I can.
Yep.
What was that?
He's gonna show a picture.
Ah.
Is that up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. You'd be able to buy this. This is the chassis you showed earlier, Dan, with the fixed uprights on it.
Yeah.
There's a new plate that you can buy with a couple of screws and countersunk screws that come in from the bottom on here. There are some special, it comes with bushings. The bushings ride in the uprights so that your set screws run on the bushings, top and bottom, not on the axle itself. And that's a big upgrade for that front end. These nylon uprights are the ovalized hole in them is considerably longer and allows for much smaller tires than what you've got on your car now.
I've seen that as a kit for sale on its own, and I've also seen the brass bushes available on their own.
They are. Yeah, these brass bushings are great in the front of NSR chassis to stop the fore and aft movement of the axle.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. Yep.
Couldn't
About
find
3
them
years.
in the UK, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Also, yep.
I couldn't
Also
find
no-
them in the UK, not in stock anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I
If
mean,
anybody's going to have them, the only person that will likely have them will be Sean Pendle.
That's where I found them, but no stock.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a lot of the SR, Ernie's offset, scale racing. I mean, on our local armchair racer site, only one of the 2 chassis options is available. None of the other, or the only other things are the fiber washers you can still get. So I'm not quite sure how long those bushings and things. But while you're on, Chris, I mentioned too that someone in New Zealand is now stocking the Cahosa S-Can motors, the actually centered ones, the armature centered in the magnetic field. Yeah, so I noticed those. I think it came up on our local forum on the Hawke's Bay Club page, and someone offered them as an alternate motor. So yeah, so they have hit the Antipodes. They are down south of the equator, so they might even come across the Tasman Sea to us eventually.
Cool. Well, if I tell you, if you're running basically on smaller tracks, the poly neomagnets are almost detrimental. They just have too much brakes and they come on too hard.
Okay, then thanks for all that.
But if you're running on plastic, you're not going to beat a motor with poly neomagnets.
They're pretty well priced too. I think they're about 25, 26 bucks New Zealand. So
Yeah, they're 18, 19 in and around there here, which is, fairly comparable to most of the stuff.
Yep.
Remarkable to think that a motor with its armature centered and shimmed properly is an upgrade.
Well, it's definitely an upgrade.
Yeah, what I mean by that is that the production motors that most cars use don't care to even think about doing it.
Well, the production motors that most cars used are used for electric toothbrushes, and the electric toothbrush manufacturers want them for 25 cents a piece.
Yep. Mike, you still have your hand up. Did you have something else to share?
Not so much to share, but I wanted to ask Chris, and now I got to find the car. Oh, I'm looking to, this is a Carrera 2002. I'm looking to either build or get a chassis of some kind. If I was going to build a brass chassis, simple, and it's a narrow, pretty high car. What style of chassis should I look at as far as building a brass one? Have you got some recommendations?
Do you just want to drive it around on your home? Like, what do you want to do with it?
Of course I want to race it, Chris.
No, but I mean, you're gonna race this on your home plastic track?
Yeah, on my home plastic track.
What do you think you're gonna put in it motor-wise?
Probably the maximum I would put is an 18.
Okay.
Probably less.
Yeah, if you're gonna do something like that, given the narrowness of the car and an 18K motor and all the rest of the stuff, the simplest thing by far to do is just a simple inline chassis for something like that.
Okay.
Just a big with an inline motor, basically.
Yeah, you can buy.
I was going to do an inline for sure because
Okay.
there's no room for a sidewinder for but I was thinking, like a piano wire style or a flat brass chassis. What do you think is?
Piano wire.
Okay.
Piano wire. You want piano wire main rails?
get a JK bracket or something like that for the back?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And JK or RGO make all kinds of like 3/4 inch wide, 1 inch wide brackets.
Yeah, 3/4 is what you need there, I
Yeah.
think.
They will be just perfect for you. What do I have here? Simple. I don't have much simple. Well, you could do something stupid simple.
I'll get up the picture of that brass thing I had there.
You could, if you
Set,
wanted, Mike,
HLS chassis.
if you want to do something really simple, you could do something like that.
Okay.
So
Just
what
do
I've
a,
done
do a
here,
pod mounted with a brass.
yeah, I've just done a U-shaped piece of piano wire. All right.
Okay.
Soldered on a couple of brass strips. The front, I've sort of modified this, so I wanted a little more torsional flex in it. That's why I've done this, but sort of forget this piece and just run this piece straight across, solder it there.
Mm-hmm.
Drill a couple of holes to put your motor mount in. A guide tongue and a couple of little brackets for body mounts. And this thing runs around. This chassis won I used a chassis like this in the SCCA proxy a couple of years ago, and it did really well. This particular chassis I ran in it was called the last open road proxy, and this chassis, this car won that. So again, it's not with an 18K motor and skinny tires on a plastic track, the design of the chassis is less important than the execution of the chassis.
Okay.
So, take try
anything to look for or to watch out for, especially what are the pitfalls
in building this?
Yeah.
Nothing. It's like cutting a piece of wood, measure twice and solder once. Like you really need to, figure out your wheelbase, make the guide under this car. I couldn't extend the guide tube any longer. I used a piece of 532 tubing on this. That was before Mr. Sampson decided to make his handy dandy little guidepost tubes, which I highly recommend. You need something flat. You want to make sure that your front axle tube is, flat. And it's really, really hard to bugger up, actually.
Okay.
What soldering
what
iron?
size piano wire are you using?
On this particular wire, that's 055.
Okay.
For an 18K motor, 047 is perfectly fine.
That's good because I've got 047.
Okay, yeah. So you just basically bend a U shape and leave it long. And then I make some little L-shaped pieces of piano wire here to hold the front axle tube.
Okay.
Find out your wheelbase, and then when you're all done, you can cut these long, just snip these long end bits off the front. That's about as simple as it's going to get.
Okay. I've got a couple of those small cars that I might consider that because the Carrera's chassis is just dismal.
Well, it's yeah, and this will handle great.
And okay, that's what I'm looking.
Yeah, and it's much simpler than getting an RG or a JK motor bracket and aligning that. This is pretty much foolproof.
Is that a slotted pod?
Yep.
Okay.
Does anyone know how narrow you can build the rear axle?
Sorry?
Does anyone know off the top of their head how narrow you can build the rear axle in a slotted pod when you're using a 10mm wide wheel, for example? I know that if
I'm
you
not
go
su-
for an 8 or a 5, you could get really, really narrow. But I just wondered if there's going to be a limit because of the width of those fingers that hold the bushes in place.
Tune in next week to find out the answer to that question. For now, we're going to say goodbye. Everybody wave bye. I'm hitting the stop button. We'll talk about this afterwards. Bye. We're waving bye.